What's up, everybody? Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. Clint Davis, your host. So thankful you're here. End of Esther chapter 6, beginning of chapter 7. The story of Esther revealing Haman's plot as the story of Esther continues to unfold. And been a big shift, an ironic shift at the end of chapter 6, where Haman, the prime minister, had prepared at the end of chapter 5 a gallows on which he was going to hang Mordecai. But now at the end of chapter 6, Mordecai is the man honored, and Haman is the one who is having to honor Mordecai and the one who is grieved over the fact that he had to honor Mordecai. So we pick this up in verse 14 of chapter 6 through verse 6 of chapter 7. While they were yet talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried to bring Haman to the feast that Esther had prepared. So the king and Haman went to the feast with Queen Esther. And on the second day, as they were drinking wine after the feast, the king again said to Esther, "What is your wish, Queen Esther? It shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom it shall be fulfilled." Then Queen Esther answered, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be granted to me for my wish, and my people for my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. If we had not been sold merely as slaves, men and women, I would not have been silent, for our affliction is not to be compared with the loss to the king." Then King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther, "Who is he, and where is he, and who has dared to do this?" And Queen Esther said, "A foe and an enemy, this wicked man Haman." Then Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. So they have this banquet. Obviously, Haman's distraught over the fact that he had to honor Mordecai. He goes home, and his family and his friends say, "Hey, look, if Mordecai is a Jew, you're going to fall, period." While he's having this conversation with him, while he's grieving over the fact that he had to go out and honor Mordecai and walk him around, he's talking with his family, the king's eunuchs come and say, "Hey, look, it's time to go. We got the big party. You got to go have dinner with the king and queen." The king doesn't, the eunuchs don't have any idea what's happening. The queen has no idea what's happening. The king has no idea what's happening. Only Haman and his family knows what's happened. And so the eunuchs come and say, "Hey, listen, come on, it's time to go to dinner with the king and his wife, the queen." And so Haman has to put himself together, get himself together, and he has to go into the king's presence. You don't go into the king's presence sad. You have to go into the king's presence joyful. He's got to put on this act, right, which is just ironic in and of itself. He's got to act as if he's excited about going before the king and this dinner. And his wife's probably saying, "It's okay, honey. Just go on in there. It'll all be good when you get there. When you get into the house, you get in there with the king. You're still in there with the king and the queen. It's just y'all. You get in there, you'll have a great time. Just get on in there and be fine. It'll all go away. This will pass, etc. You'll be fine." So he goes in and to dinner. So they have a good dinner. Have a good banquet, and after they've eaten, they're sitting around drinking wine, and the king says to Queen Esther, "Hey, Queen Esther, what is it that you want?" Remember, she's already put this off one time, and so now she says, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be granted me for my wish, and my people for my request." Now, that's kind of a vague statement, but we have to believe that either in a conversation prior to this or in the midst of this request, she's explained that she's a Jew and that her family and her people are Jews, and that they have been set up for annihilation, to be killed and destroyed, and they've been sold off to be killed and destroyed for annihilation. Sold in the sense of Haman has decided they're going to die, and that everybody can have whatever they want from them. They can plunder them, and they're going to be killed. And she says, if we had been sold off to slaves, that's one thing. We've been through that before, but this is destruction. I think there's an interesting statement here. We live in a free world. We don't want to be slaves to anyone. We don't believe in slavery. But we're free citizens. If you're listening to this in the West, you're free citizens of a country that were founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and a Christianized West is a very good thing for the world, though I'm afraid we're losing it to some degree across Western Europe and starting to creep in. Some of the seeds of oppression starting to creep in America as well. But the idea of the Christianized West is a good thing. We live in freedom. We have property. We're citizens, etc. And so we would say slavery and death are relatively the same thing in the modern world. But for her, I think it's important to note that, yeah, slavery is a bad thing. But we've been through that before, but at least we still have our lives. But annihilation is a whole different game, right? take us and put us in slavery. At least we have our lives, we have each other, we have our culture, we have our beliefs, etc. Remember, they're also living just after the exile, and some have returned home and others haven't. So the history of the exile from Babylon carrying them off into captivity are relatively fresh on their minds, on her mind. And so she is thinking from a different time frame. But she says, if we've been sold off to slavery, we'll be okay, but we've been designated to be annihilated, to be killed. Help us, save me. I'm going to die too. I'm a Jew. People can come kill me based upon the edict. And the king, interestingly, doesn't even remember the command that he made. And the king says, who did this? Who's responsible for this? And this is the moment. This is the moment. This wicked Haman has done this. Oh, man, what a moment. You can imagine the spotlight turning on Haman here. If you're watching it play out on the stage, the spotlight and the shock that would have been, and the over-exaggerated shock and awe that would have come across his face if an actor had played him. Because this was a dramatic moment, a shocking moment that Queen Esther has revealed. Not only is she a Jew in this moment, but she has revealed in this moment that Haman is responsible for this edict to destroy her and her people. And King Ahasuerus, as you can imagine, is not going to be happy about this at all. And Haman knew it. Haman was terrified before the king and queen. Because now we see this table turning. We've got to trust the Lord. You know, Mordecai and the Jews went through a lot of grief. But God, in his time, turned the table, and now the great foe of the people of God will be judged in accordance with his own failures and with his own decisions and his own actions. And he will be judged by God for what he has done. And the people of God, those who remain faithful, those who have been called by his name, will be saved by his grace. That's a promise for you and me today as well. As we live in exile, may we trust God to accomplish his will. You guys take care. God bless you. See you next time.